There is a moment that happens in my exam room more often than I want to count. A patient comes in, usually someone in their late 60s or 70s, and somewhere in the middle of the appointment, they stop. They go quiet. And then they say something that stays with me. They say, "Doctor, I feel like my mind is getting away from me. I walk into a room and I cannot remember why I walked in. I forget words I have used my whole life. I look at my grandchildren and I think, am I going to remember their names in 10 years? And then they ask me the question I hear almost every week in this office. Is this just aging? Is there anything I can actually do? And for a long time, folks, the honest answer was a painful one. Modern medicine had very little to offer for that specific fear. We could treat high blood pressure, we could treat kidney disease, but preventing the slow fading of memory and cognitive sharpness in someone over 60? We largely told people to accept it. That answer has changed. And tonight, I'm going to tell you exactly how. My name is Dr. Wilson Tang. I am a board-certified nephrologist and vascular specialist. I have spent 26 years at Mayo Clinic studying the connection between what happens inside your kidneys and what happens inside your brain. And here is something most people are never told. Your kidneys and your brain are more intimately connected than almost any two organs in your body. When your kidneys lose filtering efficiency, microscopic toxins called uremic compounds begin circulating in your bloodstream. And those compounds cross the blood-brain barrier. They accumulate in brain tissue. They drive neuroinflammation, which is the silent fire that researchers now believe is the root cause of cognitive decline in aging adults. I have watched this happen in patient after patient, and I have spent the last decade asking a very different question from most of my colleagues. Not how do we slow the damage after it starts, but what can we do every single evening with food that costs almost nothing to give the brain what it needs to clean itself overnight and repair what 20 years of life has worn down? The answer surprised me, and tonight I'm going to share it with you. Before we go any further, I need to be clear about something important. I am sharing what I have learned from 26 years of clinical practice and from the research crossing my desk. But every person watching this is different. Your medications, your kidney function, your blood sugar, your individual health history, they all matter enormously. Please take what I'm about to tell you to your own doctor and have that conversation. What I am giving you today is a starting point. The conversation with your personal physician is where it becomes yours. Do not skip that step. Now, the reason I am bringing you this information tonight is because of a patient I will never forget. I will call her Evelyn because names have been changed to protect patient privacy. Evelyn was 79 years old, retired cafeteria worker from Iowa. She had worked in that school cafeteria for 33 years, and she was proud of every one of them. She fed children. She knew every kid by name. She knew which ones had allergies and which ones just claimed they did to avoid peas. She was sharp. She was present. She was the kind of person whose mind you just took for granted because it was always there, steady and reliable, like a good clock on the wall. When Evelyn came to me, she was scared in a way that broke my heart a little. Her daughter had brought her in because Evelyn had left the stove on twice in 1 week. She had called her daughter by her deceased sister's name 3 times. She had stopped reading, which she had loved her entire life, because she could not hold the thread of a story anymore. Her previous doctor had told her this was normal aging and had offered nothing further. Her daughter was sitting in that chair, gripping Evelyn's hand like she was afraid to let go of it, and she looked at me and said, "Doctor, is she going to know who we are in 5 years?" Folks, I want to be careful here, because Evelyn's situation had multiple factors, and I cannot promise any outcome to any patient. But what I can tell you is this. When I looked at Evelyn's complete medical picture, including her kidney function, her inflammatory markers, and her nutritional profile, I found something that I see over and over in patients with accelerating cognitive decline. Her brain was not getting what it needed to repair itself overnight, not because it had failed, because no one had ever told her what to give it. Stay with me through this entire video, friends, because by the end of tonight, I'm going to show you 3 fruits, not exotic supplements, not expensive protocols, 3 fruits you can find in any grocery store for a few dollars that, when eaten at the right time, in the right way, can feed your brain exactly what it needs to do something remarkable. Clear toxic debris during sleep. Rebuild damaged neural connections. Boost the neurochemicals responsible for memory. And protect the architecture of your mind from the erosion that most people simply accept as inevitable. Hit that like button right now, folks. That is your pledge to yourself that you are going to protect the most important organ you have. Now, before I show you what to add, I need to explain something that your doctor almost certainly has not had time to tell you. Something that completely changes how we think about aging and the brain. There is a system inside your brain that most people have never heard of. It is called the glymphatic system. Think of it as your brain's night shift cleaning crew. Every night, while you sleep deeply, this system pumps cerebrospinal fluid through the spaces between brain cells, sweeping out toxic waste products. Amyloid plaques, tau proteins, inflammatory debris. These are the same compounds that define Alzheimer's disease. The glymphatic system is most active during the first few hours of deep sleep. And here is the critical part that nobody talks about in a 7-minute doctor appointment. What you eat in the 2 hours before you go to sleep either amplifies this cleaning cycle or shuts it down. A blood sugar spike before bed disrupts deep sleep architecture and slows glymphatic flow to a trickle. Alcohol before bed does the same thing. But specific compounds found in specific fruits can amplify this overnight repair cycle dramatically. They can feed the system that your brain depends on to stay sharp. And because your kidneys and your brain are both being battered by the same enemies, oxidative stress, chronic inflammation, vascular damage, protecting one protects the other. That is what 26 years in kidney and vascular medicine has taught me. And that is why tonight I want to talk about what you eat before you close your eyes. Now I'm going to tell you about 3 fruits, friends, not all at once. I want to give each one the respect it deserves, because each one does something distinct and specific that the others do not. And when you eat them together, they work as a system, each one covering a different piece of what your aging brain needs most overnight. I'm also going to tell you about a patient who used this approach and what happened. But first, the first fruit. The first fruit is blueberries. And I know some of you are already thinking, yes, blueberries, I have heard this before. But I want you to stay with me, because what blueberries actually do inside your aging brain is far more specific and far more powerful than the wellness headlines ever explain. And the timing of when you eat them changes everything. The key compounds in blueberries are called anthocyanins, specifically cyanidin and delphinidin. These belong to a class of nutrients called flavonoids, and flavonoids have an ability that almost no other dietary compound possesses. They can cross the blood-brain barrier. That protective membrane surrounding your brain filters out almost everything, but flavonoids get through. And once they are inside your brain, they go to work in a way that should make every person over 60 pay close attention. Here is what the research shows. A study published in the journal Neurology, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, analyzed dietary patterns of tens of thousands of men and women across many years and found that anthocyanins, the specific compounds in blueberries, were associated with a 24% reduction in the risk of cognitive decline. 24%, folks, from a fruit. But the mechanism is what I really want you to understand. Think of your brain as a garden, and think of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, as the fertilizer that keeps that garden alive. BDNF is the molecule responsible for building new neural connections, keeping existing brain cells alive, and protecting the hippocampus, which is the brain region most responsible for memory and most vulnerable to Alzheimer's damage. After age 60, your brain's ability to produce BDNF begins to drop. And blueberry anthocyanins directly stimulate BDNF production. Multiple studies have shown that blueberry supplementation measurably elevates BDNF levels in the hippocampus. A clinical trial published in Frontiers in Psychology found that polyphenol-rich blueberry consumption produced significant improvements in episodic memory and cognitive function in older adults, and researchers linked those improvements directly to BDNF upregulation and improvements in the brain signaling proteins responsible for converting short-term memories into long-term ones. Now, here is why the timing before bed matters specifically for blueberries. Your brain consolidates memories during sleep. That process is most active in the early hours of the night, and research shows that cerebral blood flow increases measurably roughly 2 hours after you eat flavonoid-rich foods, with peak BDNF effects occurring at approximately that same window. Folks, if you eat blueberries 1 to 2 hours before bed, you are creating a peak in BDNF activity and brain blood flow that coincides precisely with your brain's most active memory repair phase. You are not just eating fruit, you are timing a delivery. You are making sure the right package arrives at the right address at exactly the right hour. The practical protocol is simple. Half a cup to a full cup of fresh or frozen blueberries in the evening, about 90 minutes before sleep. Frozen blueberries are equally effective and in some studies slightly higher in antioxidant content because they are picked and frozen at peak ripeness. You can eat them plain. You can mix them with a small bowl of plain Greek yogurt. You can blend them into a simple smoothie with a little spinach and almond milk. What you want to avoid is sweetened blueberry products, jams, or anything with added sugar. The glucose spike will counteract the neuroprotective effect by disrupting your sleep architecture. You want the pure anthocyanin load. That is the signal your brain is waiting for. Now, type "clear" in the comments right now, folks. Just that one word. When you see information, hear it, and then write it with your own hand, your brain encodes it at a completely different level. It is called active memory consolidation, and it is exactly the process we are trying to support tonight. Type "clear." That is your commitment to giving your brain the clarity it deserves. Share this video right now with someone in your family who has been struggling with memory or brain fog. Your parent, your spouse, your best friend who keeps saying they feel foggy in the mornings. Text it to them right now, before you forget. Because here is the hard truth, folks. If you have this information, and someone you love does not, and 6 months from now they are sitting in an office being told there is nothing that can be done, could you live with having stayed quiet? One text message. That is all it takes. Now, if blueberries are the fertilizer for your brain's garden, then the second fruit I want to tell you about tonight is the one that takes out the garbage. Because here is something that most health advice completely misses. It is not enough to feed your brain. You also have to clean it. And this is where the second fruit becomes remarkable in a way that even I, with 26 years in medicine, found genuinely surprising when I first read the research. The second fruit is pomegranate. And I want to explain this carefully because what pomegranate does for your aging brain does not happen in your mouth. It happens in your gut. And understanding that changes everything about when and how you eat it. Let me give you an analogy, folks. Imagine your brain cells are small factories. Inside every factory, there are thousands of tiny power generators. Those generators are called mitochondria, and they produce the energy your neurons need to fire signals, form memories, and think clearly. Now, as you age, some of those generators start breaking down. They malfunction. Instead of producing clean energy, they produce toxic byproducts. They start polluting the factory floor. And here is the problem. Your brain has a natural quality control process for clearing out those damaged generators. It is called mitophagy. Think of it as the brain's hazardous waste removal team. When mitophagy works properly, damaged mitochondria get identified and removed before they cause more harm. When mitophagy fails, they pile up. They release inflammatory signals, and that inflammation spreads through the brain like a slow fire that nobody can see. This process, the failure of mitophagy in aging brain cells, is now understood to be one of the central mechanisms driving Alzheimer's disease and age-related cognitive decline. Folks, this is not a theory. This is where the research has landed. And this is where pomegranate becomes extraordinary. Pomegranates contain complex compounds called elagitannins and ellagic acid. When these compounds reach your gut, specific species of beneficial bacteria convert them into a metabolite called urolithin A. And urolithin A is, based on current research, one of the most potent natural activators of mitophagy that science has ever identified. A landmark study published in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia found that urolithin A improved learning and memory, reduced neuroinflammation, and actively restored the brain's mitophagy process in Alzheimer's models. The researchers found that urolithin A removed damaged mitochondria from brain cells with an effectiveness comparable to NAD supplements, which are widely considered among the most expensive and sought-after compounds in longevity medicine. Think about that, friends. A compound produced naturally inside your gut from a fruit, performing at the level of a supplement that costs $70 a bottle. A separate study confirmed that urolithin A activates a longevity gene called SIRT1, which is involved not only in brain cell cleanup, but in DNA repair, inflammation control, and cellular longevity across multiple organ systems, including, critically for my patients, the kidneys. Now here's the part about timing that changes this from interesting science into a practical tool. The conversion of pomegranate compounds into urolithin A inside your gut takes several hours. When you eat pomegranate 1 to 2 hours before bed, urolithin A production peaks roughly during the hours of sleep, exactly when your glymphatic system is most active and your brain is doing its deepest cellular cleaning. You are synchronizing your dinner table with your brain's own repair schedule. You are delivering the cleanup crew at precisely the shift change when the factory needs them most. The practical protocol is this: aim for half to a whole pomegranate worth of seed pods in the evening. If fresh pomegranate is not accessible where you live, 4 to 6 ounces of pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar is a workable alternative. Pair it with a small amount of healthy fat, a few walnuts, a tablespoon of olive oil on a small salad alongside it. The polyphenols in pomegranate are better absorbed when fat is present. And if you have been eating a lot of processed food for years, your gut bacteria may need a few weeks of support before they can fully convert pomegranate compounds into urolithin A. More whole foods, more fiber, less processed food. Those all build the microbial population your gut needs. This is why the whole picture matters. Now let me tell you about another patient. I will call him James because all patient details have been changed for privacy. James was 72 years old, retired military officer from Florida. A man who had spent 20 years being the sharpest person in any room he walked into. Strategic thinking, rapid recall, he prided himself on it. When he came to me, he was quiet in a way that worried me immediately. He had been to 2 other specialists. He had done brain scans. Everything had come back in the normal range for his age. And his previous doctor had said, "James, this is just what 60-something looks like." James looked at me and said, "Doc, I used to be able to run a 12-person tactical briefing from memory. Now I lose my train of thought in the middle of a sentence. My wife finishes my sentences for me, and she is being kind about it. But I can see the worry in her eyes when she does it. And I cannot stand that look." When I reviewed James's complete picture, his kidney function was showing early signs of decreased filtration efficiency. His inflammatory markers were elevated, and his diet, which he thought was solid, was actually missing almost entirely the compounds that his brain needed for overnight repair. He had never eaten pomegranate in his life. He thought blueberries were for smoothies his wife made. And he went to bed every night having given his brain essentially nothing to work with for its cleaning cycle. I want you to hear something, folks. Your brain works hardest while you sleep, not while you are awake. While you are awake, it is managing everything. But during those sleeping hours, it is doing the maintenance, the filing, the hazardous waste removal that keeps it running cleanly in the light of day. And if you go to bed having given it nothing, or worse, having disrupted the very systems it needs for that work, you wake up slightly further behind than you were the night before. And that accumulates. Over months and years, that accumulation is what people call aging. Do you know what memory care costs in the United States, folks? The average memory care facility runs between $8,000 and $12,000 per month. That is not a typo. $8,000 to $12,000 a month. That is your savings. That is your children's inheritance. That is the vacation you saved for 30 years to take. And I'm not telling you that eating pomegranate will guarantee that you never face that outcome. But I am telling you that giving your brain the tools it needs to repair itself overnight is not optional after 60. It is one of the most important health decisions you can make, not just for yourself, for the family that loves you and depends on you being there, all of you, mind and body, for as long as possible. Subscribe to this channel right now, friends. New videos every week. A doctor who has time for you. No copay, no waiting room. No 7-minute appointment where half the time is spent on paperwork. Just the information your brain and your kidneys need, delivered directly to you every single week. Now, I said earlier that some of you would reach a point in this video where you thought, I am eating pretty well already. I probably do not have too much to worry about on this one. And I want to speak directly to that feeling, folks. Because the third fruit I am about to show you is the one that catches almost everyone, including the most health-conscious person you know. Because the third fruit addresses something that no amount of good food during the day can fully compensate for, and that is the quality of your sleep. The third fruit is kiwi, and I know that does not carry the same dramatic weight as pomegranate. It does not have the research headlines of blueberries, but what kiwi does for your brain is, in some ways, the foundation upon which the other two fruits can even do their work. Because without deep, restorative sleep, none of the repair processes we have been discussing tonight can happen effectively. Not the memory consolidation from blueberry anthocyanins, not the mitophagy activation from urolithin A. None of it. Deep sleep is not a bonus. It is the operating system everything else runs on. Here is what is happening inside your body after 60. Around that age, melatonin production begins to decline significantly. By the time you reach 70, your melatonin levels can be less than half of what they were in your 30s. Folks, melatonin is not just the chemical that makes you feel sleepy. It is the signal that initiates the specific phases of deep sleep where memory consolidation happens, where the glymphatic system activates and clears amyloid and tau proteins, and where your brain cells do the structural repair work that keeps them functioning. When melatonin declines, you do not just sleep less deeply, you enter the restorative phases of sleep less efficiently, and your brain's overnight cleaning cycle becomes shortened, interrupted, incomplete. Now, your doctor may have suggested melatonin supplements, and for some people, those have a role. But kiwi fruit does something different, and in some ways, more complete. Kiwi contains naturally occurring melatonin, measurable concentrations of serotonin, which is melatonin's direct biochemical precursor, and a rich array of amino acids that your brain uses to build the key neurochemicals that govern sleep quality, including tryptophan, phenylalanine, and glutamic acid. Kiwi also contains an enzyme called actinidin that enhances amino acid absorption in the gut, meaning more of these precursors actually make it into your bloodstream and up to your brain. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition found that consuming kiwi fruit with the evening meal significantly increased measurable concentrations of both serotonin and melatonin metabolites compared to a control group, and produced improvements in mood, morning alertness, and reduced sleep disturbance. A separate study found that adults who ate 2 kiwi 1 hour before bedtime experienced increased time in slow-wave deep sleep, which is precisely the stage where glymphatic cleaning is most active and where the brain consolidates the day's memories into long-term storage. Think about what this means as a chain reaction, folks. You eat kiwi before bed. Your serotonin rises. Serotonin converts to melatonin. Melatonin signals your brain to enter deep sleep. Deep sleep activates the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system clears amyloid plaques and inflammatory debris. Your hippocampus consolidates the day's memories. You wake up with a brain that has genuinely been cleaned, repaired, and reset overnight. This is not poetry. This is the literal biology of what the right food at the right time can do for your aging mind. The practical protocol is simple. 2 medium-sized kiwi, eaten approximately 1 hour before bed. If you can tolerate it, leave the skin on. The skin contains 3 times the fiber and additional polyphenols. If the texture bothers you, blend the whole kiwi into a small smoothie. Pair it with a small glass of tart cherry juice if you can find it, because tart cherries contain their own natural melatonin, and the combination produces a synergistic effect on sleep depth that is genuinely noticeable within a few days of consistency. How many of you, right now, wake up in the middle of the night and cannot get back to sleep? How many of you lie there at 2 in the morning with your thoughts running and your body tired, but your mind refusing to quiet down? If that is you, type sleep in the comments right now. Because what you are experiencing is not just frustrating, it is the sound of your brain's repair cycle being cut short, night after night. And there is something you can do about it starting tonight. Now, type memory strong in the comments when you are ready. Those 2 words are your health oath for tonight. They are your promise to yourself that you are going to give your brain the signals it needs, not tomorrow, not when you get around to it, but tonight. Because your brain is the greatest gift you have. It is the thing that lets you recognize your grandchildren's faces. It is the thing that lets you tell your stories. It is the thing that makes you, you. And it deserves better than the silence we have been giving it at the end of every day. Now, I know what is happening for some of you right now. You are sitting there thinking, 3 fruits, every night, before bed. I have to remember all of this? And I want to address that directly. Because the way these 3 fruits work is not 3 separate tasks. It is one routine. And when you understand why they work together, the routine becomes the most logical, most natural thing you can do at the end of the day. Here is what is happening inside your body when you eat all 3 of these fruits in the 2 hours before sleep. The kiwi initiates the serotonin to melatonin cascade that deepens your sleep architecture. Not a little deeper, measurably deeper. The kind of deep sleep that gives the glymphatic system the time and the conditions it needs to do real work. The blueberries, eaten roughly 90 minutes to 2 hours before sleep, have their anthocyanins crossing the blood-brain barrier and reaching peak BDNF levels precisely as your brain enters its memory consolidation phase. And the pomegranate has already started feeding your gut bacteria the compounds they need to produce urolithin A overnight, activating the mitophagy process that clears out the damaged mitochondria and neuroinflammatory debris that accumulate in your brain cells every single day. 3 fruits. 3 distinct but complementary mechanisms, all operating in synchrony with your body's own overnight repair cycle. Not fighting your biology, working with it. This is what 26 years of studying the kidney-brain connection has made me passionate about, friends. Not pills, not expensive interventions. The intelligence already built into the foods that grow from the earth, deployed at the right moment with an understanding of exactly why they work. And here's the thing about being over 60 that I want you to hold on to. Before 60, your body has enough compensatory ability to partially buffer against suboptimal nutrition. When you were 40 and you went to bed having eaten poorly, your BDNF levels were still reasonable. Your glymphatic system was still efficient. Your melatonin production was still robust. But after 60, those buffers are thinner. Every system has less margin. And that is exactly when strategic, precise nutritional timing goes from helpful to essential. The folks who feel the biggest difference from these changes are almost always in their 60s and 70s, because that is when the gap between what the brain is getting and what it needs becomes wide enough to feel. Now let me tell you what happened with Evelyn. Do you remember Evelyn? The 79-year-old retired cafeteria worker from Iowa whose daughter was holding her hand in my exam room? I want to be careful about what I claim here because Evelyn's situation was complex and involved multiple interventions. But part of what we changed was her evening nutritional routine, and I want to tell you what her daughter reported to me at her 4-month follow-up. Evelyn had been eating the same dinner for years, a light salad with iceberg lettuce, sometimes canned soup, and almost no fruit at all. She went to bed having given her brain essentially nothing for its overnight work. We changed that. Half a cup of blueberries after dinner, a small serving of pomegranate seeds with a few walnuts, 2 kiwi fruit about an hour before she went to sleep. That was it. No new medications, no supplements beyond what she was already taking, just 3 fruits and a different understanding of when to eat them. At 4 months, Evelyn's daughter called my office, and I want to share what she said as accurately as I can recall it. She said, "Dr. Tang, my mother asked me last week what year my oldest grandson was born, and she knew the answer before I could tell her. She said, she called me by my own name 3 times in one conversation and laughed each time like she was proud of herself. And last Tuesday, she sat down at the kitchen table and read an entire chapter of a book. She had not done that in 2 years. She said, I do not know if it is the fruit or the other changes or all of it together, but something is different. My mother is more present. She is more her." Folks, I am a scientist, and I am a doctor. I am careful about what I claim. But I will tell you what I told Evelyn's daughter. What you eat before you sleep matters. Your brain is not done working. It is not done repairing. It is not done fighting for you. And every single night you go to bed having given it the right signals, you're giving it a better chance to win that fight. Now let me give you your 3-step protocol. Write this down, friends, because this is the part that matters most. Step 1. Starting tonight, choose 1 of the 3 fruits. Just 1. Do not try to implement everything simultaneously. Pick the one that is most accessible to you right now. Blueberries if memory is your primary concern. Kiwi if sleep quality is your biggest challenge. Pomegranate if you want to start with the deepest cellular level repair. Eat it 1 to 2 hours before bed. Do this consistently for 2 weeks before you add the second fruit. Step 2. At the 2-week mark, add a second fruit to your evening routine. This is when you begin to experience the compound effect of 2 mechanisms working together. Step 3. At 4 to 6 weeks, add the third fruit, completing the system. Give it 12 full weeks of consistency before you evaluate the results. Talk to your doctor. Have your inflammatory markers checked. Have a simple cognitive assessment if your doctor offers one. Compare where you are to where you started. The research suggests you will be surprised. 3 things to remember when you do this, folks. Keep the portions modest. This is not about eating large amounts. Half a cup of blueberries, half a pomegranate, 2 kiwi. Small, targeted, timed. Avoid added sugar alongside these fruits. A glucose spike before bed counteracts everything we are trying to achieve by disrupting sleep architecture and raising cortisol. And if you are on blood thinners or have kidney disease that restricts potassium, please talk to your doctor before making significant changes to your fruit intake. Kiwi and pomegranate are both moderately high in potassium, and for some of my kidney patients, the timing and amount matters. Your doctor needs to be part of this conversation. Now I want to ask you to do something that has nothing to do with fruit and everything to do with the people in your life. Think right now about someone you love who is over 60 and who has said, in the last year, something like, "My memory is not what it used to be," or, "I feel like my brain is slower than it was." Your parent, your spouse, your sibling, your closest friend. That person right now does not have this information, and you do. Send them this video tonight. Post it on your Facebook page, text it to your family group chat, share it with your church group, your book club, your walking partners. Because here is the truth, folks. Good information about how to protect a mind you love is not something you sit on. It is something you pass forward. 1 tap on your phone. That is all it takes to put this in front of someone who needs it. If there is someone in your life who dismisses this kind of information, who says it is just aging, who has given up on the idea that they can do anything about the fog settling over their mind, send them this video and do not argue. Let me have that conversation for them. No conflict, no hurt feelings, just a doctor with 26 years of clinical experience explaining what the science says and what they can do tonight. Here is your 3-point summary, friends. 1. Your brain performs its most important repair work during deep sleep, through a system called the Glymphatic network. What you eat in the 2 hours before bed either amplifies or shuts down that repair cycle. 2. Blueberries elevate BDNF, the brain's growth factor, and enhance memory consolidation during sleep. Pomegranate produces urolithin A through your gut bacteria, activating the cellular cleanup process that removes damaged brain mitochondria. Kiwi supplies the neurochemical building blocks for deep, restorative sleep, the foundation without which the other two cannot work. 3. You do not need a prescription for any of this. You need 3 fruits, the right timing, 12 weeks of consistency, and a conversation with your own doctor to track your progress. Now for your action step tonight. Do all 4 of these before you finish watching. First, type "Memory Strong" in the comments. Lock in your commitment. Second, hit that like button. Every time you hit that button, you are telling yourself that your brain is worth protecting. Third, hit subscribe. New information every week. No copay, no waiting room. Your doctor who actually has time for you. And fourth, send this video to one person you love who needs to hear this tonight. Not tomorrow, tonight. Because tomorrow, that person is going to eat what they always eat and go to bed having given their brain nothing. And if you could change that with one message, why would you wait? I want to close with something I say to every patient who has ever sat in my exam room feeling afraid of what the future holds for their mind. Your brain is not done fighting for you. It has been fighting for you every single night with whatever you have given it to work with. And when you give it the right tools, the right compounds, the right timing, you will be amazed at what it can still do. I have watched it. I have seen it in patient after patient. I have seen people in their late 70s show measurable improvement in memory and cognitive function after simple, consistent changes in what they eat in the evening. The brain has remarkable resilience. It just needs the right signals. Do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not. I have sat across from enough patients to know that the mind that feels like it is fading still has more repair capacity than most people believe. What it needs is not expensive medicine. It needs your kitchen table. It needs the right fruit. It needs the right time of night. And it needs someone who takes the time to explain why. I am Dr. Wilson Tang, your lifelong kidney and vascular health specialist. Let us keep learning, keep growing, keep healing together. I will see you in the next one. And before you go, one more thing. In my next video, I'm going to show you the common breakfast habit that over 60% of Americans over 60 do every single morning. And research now suggests that habit is actively disrupting their glymphatic sleep cycle every single night. You have never heard this framed this way before, and when you see it, you are going to want to share it with everyone you know. That is next week. Do not miss it.